entering the Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
I'm Pat Mayo, and these are the Week 11 rankings by position. If you're looking for the cheat sheet for the rankings, aka the list form of the rankings, along with all the injuries and game-by-game notes, that link is down in the show notes right now, or you can sub to the Mayo Media newsletter for free and have it sent directly to you. If you're ever looking for updates once injury news happens, that is where I'll be making the updates. I'll have a fresh rankings recap and breakdown with all the injuries on Saturday if you're looking for that. But let's jump into it. The running back rankings for week number 11. At the top, Christian McCaffrey, Devin Achane, Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry, Kyren Williams, Gibbs, Taylor, Alvin Kamara, Breece Hall, Chase Brown, Kenneth Walker, Kareem Hunt, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones. And then we get to David Montgomery, who should still see a ton of work unless they get up by way too much, as 13.5-point favorites against Jacksonville. Of note, Trevor Lawrence is out for this week, so it'll be Mac Jones on the other side of the ball. So we'll see how much they can actually be pushing the ball offensively back to them. Obviously, you're going to start all of your studs. I think this is where we get to stud territory. Maybe you put James Cook in there as well, because you know that he's going to get the workload against Kansas City, be it on the ground, through the air, but you always have to be worried about Josh Allen stealing his touchdowns or the game just kind of going awry on him. We've just seen him have some stinkers, some big games and some stinkers. He's kind of in the middle by himself, and then you have J.K. Dobbins going against a weak defense, but then you had Gus Edwards come back and look pretty good in that game a week ago, so we're still going to be splitting carries a little bit in this spot. We're not going to see an 80-20 split like we saw between Dobbins and Vidal. It's more like a 60-40 split, and if Gus Edwards is running well, you're going to end up seeing like a 55-45 split, so there's less upside to be had with Dobbins, but we've seen his breakaway speed be not the best, but he still gets there, and he's still finding his way into the end zone. So in this game with a projected high point total, he's still a pretty good start, not a great start in this matchup. After him, we go DeAndre Swift, Nick Chubb, who I expect to look a lot better coming off the bye week, especially against a weak New Orleans run defense who got torn up by Bijan a week ago and got torn up by Hubbard the week before that. It's just New Orleans somehow ended up winning that game against Atlanta. Not quite sure exactly how that happened. I went back and watched it again. I was like, how did Atlanta score like 40 points in this game? But it's Atlanta, and this is what they do, so watch out with that. So then it's Rico Dowdle on Monday Night Football against the Texans. Again, not a fantastic start, especially with Cooper Rush expected to be under center against a very good run defense. You hope that he gets most of his work through the passing game if Cooper Rush can complete a pass. And I have heard that it is much easier to throw to the guy 2 feet next to you rather than anyone downfield, at least if you're Cooper Rush. And that's what we saw last week against an attacking Philly defense, and we're going to see the same thing with an attacking Houston defense like we saw on Sunday Night Football against the Lions. They were penetrating through the league's best offensive line. What are they going to do to Dallas and their terrible offensive line? Wreak havoc is exactly what they're going to do. Then we get into the confusion of the week as it pertains to injuries. Up first is Austin Eckler at number 23 in the running back rankings. Obviously, this game is on Thursday Night Football, so we're going to have to wait and see what happens with Brian Robinson. I currently have Brian Robinson in the rankings right now as he's practicing in a limited capacity with his hamstring injury, but he is a true game time decision for the moment. Right now, I have him at number 32 in the running back rankings. That's one spot ahead of Javonte Williams, or behind Javonte Williams, one spot behind or ahead of Tank Bigsby, coming off an injury last week to his ankle in a catch-up spot against Detroit. And usually in the catch-up spot, you usually see more of Travis Etienne, who's getting back to full health. He's at number 28, or Dearness Johnson, who will be used in a receiving capacity, just a little bit less than Etienne, as long as he continues to be at full strength. So you have the bad game script for Bigsby, and then you have the injury to contend with as well. It's just not a great spot against Detroit. But circling back to Austin Eckler for a moment. So this is with Brian Robinson in. This is assuming that Brian Robinson doesn't see his full complement of touches that he saw pre-hamstring injury, where he was monopolizing all the goal line work and all the carries between the tackles. And the other big thing here, they're 3.5-point underdogs against Philadelphia, and Philly is generating the most pressure over the past 4 weeks without blitzing. They're sending 4 and they're getting home, and they're really making the quarterback move around. Now, Washington's offense is designed to mitigate those problems. Everyone thinks that the Washington offensive line is great all of a sudden after we all projected them to be terrible coming into the year. That hasn't really been the case. The credit goes to Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury. It's a lot like the Tua situation with McDaniel in Miami, where their offensive line is absolutely terrible, but they get the ball out quickly. They move the quarterback around in order to mitigate some of that pass rush. The problem ends up becoming where Philly doesn't need to blitz and they only bring 4, they can drop everyone else back into coverage. So you're going to have some issues with McLaurin, with Noah Brown, with McCaffrey, with Diami Brown, Zacchaeus, whoever it might be. So I do see a lot of Austin Eckler upside in the receiving part of this game, especially if Brian Robinson continues to not be at 100%. That's the thinking on why Austin Eckler is at number 23, that he could probably have 3, 4, 5 catches in this game, especially as underdogs if they are playing catch-ups. Why I like Zach Ertz right now, and we'll get to that actually right now. The underdog plays for week number 11 on Thursday Night Football. We've reeled off 3 in a row on Thursday Night Football, going for 4 in a row, and the bank account is overflowing after an awesome week. I actually cashed out twice over the weekend. You got to take that money out. Sorry, underdog, but I don't want to be leaving like $8,000 on the site. Need to be getting that money out. But a lot of winners last week. Monday Night Football, not so much a success, but Monday Night Football has been a terrible run for me all year long. But the winners come on Thursday Night Football. The problem is right now that the full prop board is not out on Underdog as I'm recording this on a Wednesday afternoon. So on Thursday morning, hopefully there's more up, but with some uncertainty about Dallas Goedert's hamstring, the hamstring of Brian Robinson, we might not get everything we need until very late on Thursday. I'll release, hopefully by Thursday morning when I do the update on the injuries on Mayo Media Network. Sub to Mayo Media Network, by the way. Smash the like while you're here. I'll have the updated version of, or at least just another underdog play. This one probably be like a 5-legger for 20-1, because this one's only 3-1. And I'll probably release it on X as well, if you're looking for those underdog plays. Now, if you want to get in on the underdog streets and come along with it and start winning some cash, code Mayo will get you a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. Additionally, you will get a Jalen Hurts free pick for Thursday Night Football. So you can add that on to this one that pays 3x. You add on the Jalen Hurts free pick, and all of a sudden it pays 6 times your money. So I would get in on that. I have A.J. Brown, higher receiving yards. He's going to be matched up with St. Juste at best. He is going to absolutely wreak havoc on this Washington secondary. He is the one player that you can kind of think of, besides probably Jamar Chase in a weird way, that you wouldn't want to be playing if you were Washington, would be A.J. Brown, and he just gets his 3 bombs per game. So higher than 82.5 receiving yards for him, and I mentioned Zach Ertz earlier. I just expect a lot of checkdowns, mid-range throws, quick throws from Jalen Hurts, so 3.5 receptions higher for Zach Ertz. He has beat this number in 3 of his past 4 games, and I think this is the best matchup in a revenge situation against the Philadelphia Eagles as well. So code Mayo right now, get in on Underdog. Back to the running back rankings for the week. Jaylen Warren I have at number 24 because Najee Harris is questionable with this ankle injury. Yes, he did return to the game on Sunday, but obviously he was not 100%, hence why Jaylen Warren started getting the goal line work. Ended up with 14 carries in that game. I know that Najee had over 20, but a lot of those came a lot earlier in the game when they were pounding it, and Warren just looked better. But in this matchup, against a good Baltimore run defense and a bad Baltimore pass defense, you'd probably want your primary pass-catching running back on the field more than your between the tackles guy. It's not that Najee's not going to do anything, especially if he's healthy. I mean, there's a chance that he misses this game, and then Warren gets a huge boost up into the rankings. Check back in Saturday's show to see if that happens, where Jaylen Warren would rank. But all things being equal, if both of them are healthy right now, I think Warren can get there on receptions at the moment. So he's at number 24. Najee Harris is at number 29. This is the one that I found the most difficult, was the Broncos backfield. If in a best case scenario, you don't have to play anyone. However, Audric Estime was the biggest pickup at running back of anyone you could potentially play this week in your lineup. I have him at number 30. That's 1 spot ahead of Javonte Williams. That is a huge cop-out in terms of how this ranking goes, but I have no sense of how this backfield is going to go. Was the Estime thing just a 1-week blip? Was it because they were winning the entire time against the Kansas City Chiefs? I would say that was probably the play. He's doing nothing in the receiving game. So if Atlanta jumps out to a 7-0 lead, does he even see the field? Maybe a little bit, but most definitely not as much as he did a week ago. Then it probably reverts back to Javonte Williams. Plus, you still have Jaleel McLaughlin, who ends up working himself into red zone packages out of nowhere all the time. It's just a very confusing backfield to work with. If you were just thinking about carries in this game, it's probably estimate if this game remains within a score the entire time. If you have the out that Atlanta jumps up 10-0 in this game, you probably don't see much of him. So I don't think there's a lot of upside to go with estimate unless you like parlay his rushing attempts prop with the Broncos money line. Then you might be looking good because that is his path to seeing a lot of work in this game. The only other injury that I'm looking at right now at running back is Jamal Williams. He is questionable with a groin injury for the New Orleans Saints. I wouldn't expect, even if he's active, to take away much from Alvin Kamara. But you can see I didn't have Alvin Kamara inside the top 5. He's actually at number 10 this week in a decent matchup against the Cleveland Browns, although they have been a much better home defense than an away defense, and this game is in New Orleans. It's just with Taysom Hill being active, he's there to steal touchdowns. So it does really cap the upside of Kamara. He has those 4-5 touchdown games in him, hence why he's always a start. But more often than not, he doesn't score a touchdown, which becomes awfully problematic when he is supposed to be one of the 3 best running backs in football. If you take away his best game and his worst game, all of a sudden he's not a top 5 running back anymore. He just has those huge games that propel him and can win you a week, which is why you always play him. And the fact that he gets his volume, well, he's always good even if he doesn't score a touchdown. It's just versus a lot of these other high-end running backs, his touchdown potential is so much lower than the other ones, which is why he's behind Jonathan Taylor with Anthony Richardson back, mind you, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kyron Williams, guys that get the ball near the goal line, or in Gibbs's case, your team scores so many points that eventually you're just going to hit the roulette wheel and boom, you're going to score a touchdown too. We're at the time of year where people are going to ask you what you want for a gift, and you're going to say, I don't want anything, or I don't know. Here's an answer. Doer. My Doer pants I got last week are the most comfortable pieces of clothing that I own. I got a pair of denim stretch jeans and these joggers. These joggers are amazing. You get them in a whole bunch of colors, but they don't look like joggers. So when you go out into public, I mean, we would wear crappy jogging pants out in public because they're so comfortable all the time, but then people see you're like, who is this absolute goober walking around in his joggers wearing his pajamas? No. The Doer joggers look so good. They are lightweight, they are stylish, they are relaxed, and beyond anything, they, again, are the most comfortable things I own. I wore them like 3 days in a row, which is a lot for a pair of pants. I absolutely love my Doers, and I know you're going to love them too. Check out Doer's flagship stores in LA or Denver, or shop online at shopdoer.com/PME. Right now, here's the thing. My listeners, you good people, listening to the Pat Mayo Experience, get 20% off your first purchase when you use my exclusive URL, shopdoer.com/PME. This is an awesome deal. Don't wait. Go get 20% off right now at shopdoer.com/PME. Week 11 wide receiver rankings this time around is somewhat confusing because there's like 5 guys who you might want to start that are iffy to be in lineups. Those guys are Nico Collins, who I have expected to play. And all these guys are in the rankings, by the way. So Nico Collins expected in. Tyreek is leaning into play. I would expect him to go too. Keon Coleman is leaning out, so I would not expect him to play in this game. Juju Smith-Schuster is leaning in. Amari Cooper, I have, is leaning in. Ditto with T. Higgins. Michael Pittman, I have no idea, but you probably don't want to play him with Anthony Richardson anyway, and Cedric Wilson, like, who really cares? It's not like he's going to limit the amazing Marquez Valdez-Scantling in New Orleans at this point. But overall rankings, Chase Brown, Jefferson, Nico at number 4, Cooper Kupp, Amon-Ra, Pickens, Puka, Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf, Drake London, then CeeDee Lamb at number 12. This one is difficult because you still have to roll him out there. He's still dealing with that AC joint in his shoulder. It's just the Cooper Rush factor. Like, Cooper Rush sucks, but he does try to force feed the ball to CeeDee Lamb, and they're 8-point underdogs at home in this spot, so you would expect a lot of passing attempts. It's just, can Cooper Rush actually complete these passes? This becomes the problem with everything. So I think he has enough upside. They'll try to use him with a rush or two in this game. His actually over rushing prop, I think it hit last week at 2.5, but that might be a scenario where he could use CeeDee Lamb. They'll try to find inventive ways to use him. It's just his upside is capped. And this might even be best case scenario right now at number 12, but that's right. If I'm playing CeeDee Lamb, it's hard to bench him at this point. It's a little bit different like when we start going down a little bit and I get to Tyreek Hill at number 19. That's behind guys like Devontae Adams, Jaden Reed, Debo, Terry McLaurin, Zay Flowers even against this good Pittsburgh defense. You want the squirrely guy who can break off his routes, run underneath, and run different sorts of routes. That's going to cause some issues for the Steelers. He's going to be the primary receiver for the Ravens this week. Then you have Tyreek. Tyreek just hasn't been good. He has one 100-yard game this season, and we want to hold out hope in a fantastic matchup against the Raiders at home this week. It's just I don't know how much he has left in the tank for these big plays because his wrist really does seem to be bothering him. There was already rumors that he was going to end up calling it quits had Miami lost on Monday Night Football. So I think he's in it until Miami is officially out, and then you won't see Tyreek Hill anymore. I'm not saying sell him for peanuts or cents on the dollar right now, but I'd probably take 75% of what he's worth if you want to trade Tyreek Hill before the trade deadline, because I don't think he makes it through the rest of the season unless you're for sure thinking that Miami can make it on a run all the way till the end through December. And even in December, it's not like Miami's good anyway, so probably get rid of Tyreek Hill right now. After him, Juwan Jennings comes in at number 20. You got T. Higgins, Ladd McConkey, Jacoby Myers with Desmond Ridder starting in this game, likely for the Las Vegas Raiders. Kind of like the Raiders in this matchup against Miami, but Jacoby Myers is the best option in the receiving game after Brock Bowers for the Raiders. He's number 23. Cedric Tillman, Darnell Mooney, Ridley, Waddle, DeAndre Hopkins. Now, this DeAndre Hopkins ranking is affected by what I presume to be the return of Juju Smith-Schuster after a 2.5 game absence. You can see Juju is at number 40 against the Bills. Hopkins, I'm just going to have to rank higher unless Juju really shows you something where he is past DeAndre Hopkins in this spot, but he's 28. Jackson Smith-Njigba gets bumped back down the rankings with the presumed return of DK Metcalf this week, who is already back at practice. Brian Thomas I have at number 30. So his chest injury from 2 weeks ago has clearly severely limited him. And then, although it's a nice spot for garbage time against Detroit, it's still Mac Jones throwing him the ball. So you couple an injury with a bad quarterback against a very good defense, and I just don't love it. He could break off 2 touchdowns for 60 yards apiece, but that injury really does scare me. And the fact that they did nothing last week against Minnesota's D, which is a really good defense. So maybe that was the issue. But it's not like Detroit's defense is some slouch either. Like, they're going to attack Mac Jones. Mac Jones stinks. So it's a real problem with Brian Thomas, who maybe Doug Peterson has said that there's a chance that Trevor Lawrence returns after the bye. Maybe this is kind of the case for Trevor Lawrence in a weird way, that the moment you see his backup, it's like, oh my God, this guy is terrible. That just being league average is good enough for a lot of the fantasy options right now on Jacksonville. So number 30, still a start, but not a good one. Shakir just after, Jamison Williams, Jerry Jeudy, who is still available in over 50% of leagues. You should pick up Jerry Jeudy, and you can play him as your wide receiver 3, especially in a very nice matchup against the New Orleans Saints this week on a fast track indoors. I like Tillman, I like Brown, I like Tillman, I like Elijah Moore, I like Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku to go with Jameis. Maybe the touchdowns don't end up materializing because Jameis tends to throw too many picks in games, but the yardage and the targets will be there for all of these guys. So Jeudy at 33, Sutton in a tougher matchup against Atlanta at 34, Tank Dell, Josh Downs gets bumped to number 36 with Anthony Richardson back, DJ Moore at 37 because the Bears, who knows? Quentin Johnson, Demario Douglas, Super Demario brothers, Juju Smith-Schuster, Bateman, Romeo Doubs, Noah Brown, Elijah Moore, Tyler Lockett, Amari Cooper at number 46. He is leaning in this week. He does have this wrist injury. He might have to play through a cast. I just think in a game where I think this game means a lot more to Buffalo than it does to Kansas City, that they might be all hands on deck where they can be. And since Coleman is already out, they might try to rush Cooper back a little bit, but he has missed 2 straight games. Hopefully he's getting healthier for the Bills' sake. He'd be a nice key to have in this offense. It's just where he was new to the team, wasn't running a full playbook or complement of snaps anyway, and now he's missed 2 weeks. I just don't expect him to see him out there all that much. Like the 13 target Amari Cooper game, I suppose it's on the very high end of the bell curve, just very unlikely to be happening. Like, best case scenario you're probably looking for here is like what you saw the first week with the Bills, like 4 for 60. Maybe he scores a touchdown. Maybe he scores 2. Maybe that's why he's there, because Dalton Kincaid is looking unlikely for this game too. Maybe he's the red zone presence that they need for Josh Allen. But either way, I just don't have a ton of expectation for Amari Cooper for your fantasy lineup this week. After him, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Can he do it again? Maybe. It's worth a flyer, and this is what we're at. We're at the flyer range. There's some big play guys here. Lockett's a big play guy. MVS, Watson, Ray, Odunze, Addison, Trey Tucker, even Xavier Worthy, and Alec Pierce. Like, these are the next 10 guys in the rankings, and they're all one catch makes their day type players. And they're not consistent. They can leave you with a 0 in your lineup just as easy as it's probably easier for them to score 0 points than 20 points, but you understand the logic of where I'm coming from here. With the rankings of these guys, before you get to like the true crapshoots, one catch can make these guys weak, which is why they're ranked between 45 and 55 when there are 4 teams on bye week right now. At tight end, once again, you can always check out the show notes to find the list of the rankings if you're looking for them, and they'll be updated every time you look at them, because I update them twice a day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and once right before game time. All right? Brock Bowers, number 1 against Miami. Kelsey and Njoku, Mark Andrews. This is assuming that there is no Isaiah Likely in this game, who is tracking to miss his 2nd consecutive game with a hamstring injury. If Likely is back, Andrews moves down the rankings. That's just 1 + 2 = 3 logic right here with Mark Andrews. Kittle at number 4. He might not play in this game either with his hamstring injury. I do think that he'll be back out there. TJ Hawkinson at 6. It was nice to see him get all that work and develop a rapport with Sam Darnold in his 2nd week back after missing a year. So he's back up to number 6. Taysom, Goddard on Thursday Night Football, Pitts, Ingram. Sam Laporta I have in the rankings right now, although I'm kind of suspicious of whether or not he's going to play. It seems like a spot where they can really get Goff going, so if Laporta's in, I do think that he has considerable fantasy upside, but it needs to be mitigated with the downside that we've seen from him all year, plus the injury. But after him, it's like Hunter Henry, Dawson Knox, Zach Ertz, who I mentioned before. Do not expect Dalton Kincaid to be playing, so Knox comes in at number 13. The problem is all these other guys are just kind of like touchdown or bust, like Tucker Kraft at 15. When everyone has been healthy on Green Bay, he doesn't really have a giant role. So you're just praying that the touchdown comes. Now, when there's no Watson and no Romeo Doubs and Wicks is out, then all of a sudden, Tucker Kraft is a fantastic play. It's just all those guys are currently healthy and playing, along with a Jordan Love whose injury status, we know that he's playing. We just don't know how healthy he is at the moment. So I've taken away some of his upside when I ran my projections. You can always run your own projections at Run the Sims, by the way. That's where I run mine and then manually edit them after the fact. Mike Gesicki, I bumped down to number 16. Tougher matchup against the Chargers, and I do expect T. Higgins to return this week. If you miss it, T. Higgins is number 21 in the wide receiver rankings. Should T. Higgins not play, I would boost up Mike Gesicki to probably right around that Dawson Knox range, like to number 13. Maybe you could put him ahead of Evan Ingram, because I've already kind of smack talked Mac Jones this entire time. Evan Ingram seems to be the most likely target for Mac Jones to throw to, hence why he's still at number 10 in the tight end rankings. But you don't really have to go digging all that much this week. You should be pretty set at tight end. I've just listed off 5 guys who are inside the top 15 that you could theoretically go pick up if you were in a pinch anyway. The quarterback news that you need to know is Anthony Richardson. Phony Tony himself is getting the start. Joe Flacco back to the bench this week against the Jets. Good for the Jets defense. By the way, Desmond Ridder is expected to start for Las Vegas over Gardner Minshew, and Trevor Lawrence is out against Detroit. Once again, Doug Peterson said he has a chance to return after the bye week. Not necessarily that he is going to return after Jacksonville's bye, is that he has a chance to return with this AC joint problem in his shoulder. He might opt for surgery and be out for the year, so keep that in the back of your mind. You're free to drop Trevor Lawrence at any time that you want. Guy that you shouldn't drop, the guy who's number 1 in the quarterback rankings, that is Jalen Hurts. And once again, if you sign up with code Mayo to Underdog right now, you will get a Jalen Hurts free pick for Thursday Night Football. If that's something that interests you, you put him with Hurts and A.J. Brown hires, and boom, you can win 6 times your money. Code Mayo at Underdog right now. Jalen Hurts, number 1. Number 2, Lamar, because why not? He's the number 1 quarterback in fantasy, so he's number 2 in the rankings this week in a bit of a tougher matchup. Hurts gets the nod because Washington's D, well, better than we think. Still not very good, mind you. Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen, Jared Goff. I do have a hunch that they get Goff going after getting kind of embarrassed. He got kind of embarrassed. I know they won the game on Sunday Night Football, and this is a perfect matchup to do this in. Just let Jared Goff go crazy on a terrible Jacksonville defense. Purdy, Wilson, Burrow, Herbert, and Mahomes round out the top 10 in this game. And there's actually a lot of bad matchups this week for quarterbacks. Like CJ Stroud has not been good anyway, and I know the Dallas defense is putrid. Their run defense is especially putrid, and it's not like their offensive line is still standing up. Like, you're going to have Micah Parsons in the backfield harassing CJ Stroud. It is good that Nico Collins is back. That's a boost for him. He's still number 11 in the rankings. Like, he's fine, and he can take off himself, but you could probably see a lot of running with Joe Mixon in this game. Is what I'm saying. Matt Stafford on the road. That's a weather check game. We're at that part of the year where you do the rankings now, and then on Saturday we can get a better sense if there's rain, wind, or how cold it's going to be in some of these outdoor games, especially in the Northeast or the Midwest. This game is in New England, but it is a very nice matchup for Stafford, who did almost throw for 300 yards despite kicking 5 field goals for the Rams on Monday night. It is a short week. Geno in catch-up mode, Bo Nix, Drake May, Jameis Winston at number 16. Then you're into the back half of Rodgers, Love, Cousins, Darnold, Tua. I just expect a lot of running coming from the Dolphins this week against the Raiders. Of note, Anthony Richardson back in at number 23, Desmond Ridder at number 25, the glorious Mac Jones at 26, then Carr and Cooper Rush to finish everything off. Finally, the defenses for the week. The only ones that I'm thinking about moving the Jets up. The issue is I have them at number 11 right now in the rankings. Is against Anthony Richardson. That's good. I actually like them more against Flacco because Flacco's actually going to sling the ball, and that's what you want. You want the opportunity to pick the ball off. If Anthony Richardson, it's not that he doesn't throw, it's just he throws to no one, not even the other team. There's terrible passes. Maybe he's rectified that after his 2 weeks of sitting and watching Joe Flacco throw picks to the other team. He's like, I can do that. Let's try that out. But if you're thinking about running, that's what the Indianapolis' game plan is going to be, both with Richardson and Taylor, and they're probably going to try to get him some pretty easy throws or just deep throws down the field that probably get overthrown most of the time. So there's just not a lot of fantasy upside for the Jets in this contest to have picks and return them or to sack the quarterback. There's still enough because, phony Tony will do some stupid things for you, but the overall upside is limited because it's not Flacco in a weird way for the opposing fantasy defense than with Anthony Richardson. Number 1 is Houston, obviously, on Sunday or on Monday Night Football. Minnesota, the Niners, Packers, Broncos, that's the top 5. After that, you got the Lions, Chargers, Dolphins, Rams, Saints, Jets, and Cleveland Browns. I only rank 16 this week because after that it's Buffalo, the Bears, Philadelphia, and the Tennessee Titans to round out the list. Once again, I got the playoff streamers down there too. Totally forgot about that. Indy, Arizona, Jacksonville, Atlanta, and Tampa Bay, all based on schedule. And if you're looking for a bet at any sports book, I recommend coolbet.com if you can get on there if you're in the legal regions for those. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now, plus 120 to have over 8.5 wins. They only have one game that's difficult for them. Not to say they can't lose some of the easy games, but when you play Carolina twice, and New Orleans and the Giants in your upcoming schedule, even though you're 4-6, there are 5 wins in their final 7 games coming off their bye week where they should have Mike Evans. So keep an eye on that if you're looking at a plus money odd of over 8.5 wins. If you can find some live win totals, cool bet is where I would go do that now. But hey, you should use underdog using code Mayo. Get that Jalen Hurts free pick. AJ Brown higher, Zach Ertz higher reception. AJ Brown higher yardage receiving, Zach Ertz higher receptions of 3.5 with the Jalen Hurts free pick. Win 6 times your money with code Mayo at underdog right now. Once again, the show notes are where the injury list and rankings list are all going to be right now and where they'll continue to be, yet be updated once information breaks. All right, I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!